Welcome to Inside Aesthetics, the world's leading podcast for injectors and aesthetic businesses. I'm Dr. Jake Sloane, an aesthetic doctor with over 16 years experience in facial aesthetics.
And I'm David Segal, an entrepreneur and business mentor with over 20 years of experience in our industry. Our podcasts are aimed at industry professionals, and any information or advice given is general in nature. You should consult with a healthcare provider before undergoing any treatment.
And we're back. Well, we're here. It's been, what?
Too bloody long.
Almost 2, is it 2 months? No.
Well, we've been, this podcast will come out, I think, a month after the last one.
Right.
But yes, I haven't seen you for a little bit longer.
Oh, no. So tell us all about your trip before we get into Patreon news and reminders and the topic of the day. Let's talk about what you've been up to.
It's too long. I've been to too many countries. Okay, I'll keep it very short so not to bore everyone. So I went to New Zealand first. That was a 3-day trip, went with Allergan. And it was quite cool. I've never been to New Zealand before, so I was in Auckland, which I have heard is not the prettiest city compared to the South Island, but no offence to those in Auckland. But yeah, it was great. I was just there for a couple of days and I visited 3 clinics. So I did what they call in-clinics, where I'm sort of there mentoring, and we did some live injecting, which was cool. And the main focus was on technique, sterility, but also some advanced areas like forehead, eyebrow, temple, and all the rest of it. So that was cool. And then I did a talk for the, I think there's about 30 New Zealand injectors. We went to the QT Hotel. Dr. Sarah Hart and Paul Nola were sort of chairing, if you like. And we had a really interesting talk by a doctor called Dr. Sylvia Ramirez. She's based in Singapore. And she was talking about, essentially how toxins are not comparable.
Oh, yeah.
As in, of course, all the brands are different, but I think we sometimes skirt over that and just say, they're all the same. But it's good to go into the science and the data and actually, from a non-commercial perspective, just understand the science behind the different products. So that was interesting.
So was she basically saying that technique needs to be adjusted significantly between the different products?
Well, that wasn't the focus of it, but I guess in essence, yes, because you can't assume that they are the same when they've got different characteristics, different spreadabilities, different potencies, and different units. They come in different units and so on. So it would be a bit naive to use them exactly the same, I guess, was the takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. It's just they've become so used to a certain product and how it's going to perform, that they move to something else and it's like, this product's not as good or it doesn't work. So, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting, obvious observation.
Exactly, obvious, but I think most injectors kind of go, they're just the same. And they eventually get caught out when they've used them the same and they haven't acted the same.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was cool. And then I did a talk on, the topic of delayed onset nodules or swellings, whichever way you want to call it. And that was interesting because, obviously I had to go into the science, look at all the papers, get all the evidence, and, I learned myself about some of the things that we can put into practice. But essentially, from my perspective, it comes down to sterility, technique, volume, and just understanding what you're doing, just being a sensible injector.
Yeah.
Which again, we'll get into this podcast later about what do we mean by sensible and ethical.
And then you came back for a little bit, and then
I came back for a day or less than a day for my daughter's birthday, and then I was shot off to London. And that was a bit crazy because I went literally straight from the airport, did our Instagram live where we announced our winner of the competition. Well done again, our winner. And then straight to the ACE conference, which is a UK large conference in London. And key takeaways were it was a big conference, just like many others that we've seen in Australia and around the world. Some nice talks. I was mainly there I gave a talk on the second day, which was good. It was well received and nice to connect with supporters of the podcast. So thank you for coming to say hi and sharing your love for the podcast for me and David. But yeah, again, just networking, socializing, meeting people, trying to, find out about what the UK market's all about. And it is a little bit different. Again, coming down to regulation, how they can advertise, it's a bit different. And I have to say, now I've got my Australian hat on and we've gone through some of the changes that we're going to come onto in this podcast. I do find it difficult to marry up what happens in other countries in my head now. I've kind of got my own sort of path and lane, and when people veer outside of that, I find it jarring to me. It's hard.
So you feel it's too lax?
taken to the nth degree with what we're doing here in Australia, I do agree with most of it. It should we be encouraging people to undergo drugs and cosmetic procedures when at the same time we're saying our patients are crazy and difficult to manage? It's hard to marry up the two and then not make any changes.
Yeah. Well, I think that the concept of commercials and money are at odds with the way that medicine should just be practiced in general terms.
Yeah.
Because as soon as money's involved in anything, it changes people's motivations. It could change their advice.
Yeah.
It always complicates things.
I think so. Yeah. But, I'm not saying other countries are wrong, and there are different spectrums of what other countries are doing. But anyway, it was a great time.
Yeah.
Really appreciated being invited to speak. And my talk was called, What Sort of Injector Are You?
Oh, yeah.
I think I mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
And it was, maybe I can break it down on a podcast one day, but it was basically aimed at getting people to think about their why, and as from an injector, not a business perspective, but also necessarily how to be more ethical, but just to really think about, well, why are you doing this, and how are you going to get to the level that you want to be? Try and think about your career path and your training and your why, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. Was it well received?
It was. It was in the business room, so it wasn't in one of the main rooms, but it was got lots of nice feedback and lots of people asking questions, and we got a couple of new followers as well, and Patreon subscribers.
How long was the standing ovation for?
Sadly, that didn't happen. Sadly. But anyway, I could have pretended it did, but it didn't. Anyway, and then from there was a big award ceremony called the Aesthetics Awards, and interesting. I was sat next to Lee Walker, our friend Lee, and actually he won a big prize.
Yeah. Saw that.
I don't want to sort of get the title of the prize wrong, but it was essentially outstanding achievement to aesthetics. And once a year that will be given to, someone who really is outstanding. Last year it was Tapan Patel.
Right.
This year it was Lee Walker.
Yep.
Anyway, and we were talking about just the function of the awards, and we don't really have that here in Australia. And he said, we should be driving some sort of award ceremony here in Australia, as in the podcast show.
Right.
And I sort of had to think about it, and firstly I thought, no, that's silly, and no one really values these things. But maybe they would. I don't know. I don't know. So you guys, reach out, let us know. If you think that has any value, send us a DM on Instagram or...
It'd be interesting.
Similar.
Have to find who we'd make judges.
Well, exactly, and this is where it comes down to slapping your friends on the back and giving favours. I don't know. I mean, I was a judge just for full.
Is that your way of saying you're open to bribes?
No. What I'm saying is, it's very hard to not have a bias when you know some people and you don't know other people.
Yeah, of course.
That's actually why, as a judge, I actually stood away from any of the categories of awards where I could or couldn't have a bias.
Yes.
For example, I said, I can't judge who's the best clinic in the country because I don't know many of these clinics, and yet I do know some of them. So I just said, well, I can't judge that one. So my only role was to judge the best non-surgical result.
Right.
And I just looked at the photos and the text with that photo. I didn't know who they were.
Right.
So...
And did it have to be a before and after photo using a certain type of treatment? Could it be anything? Could it be biostims? Could it be fillers?
That was actually my problem with the award. It included lasers, injectables, toxins, anything non-surgical, threads, I believe. So I actually found that hard to judge because some, and I believe the winner was, a totally different modality to the others, and so it's sort of hard to judge.
You're not comparing apples with apples?
No, not really. But anyway, fair enough. It was nice to acknowledge someone's good work.
Right.
Was the takeaway.
So what do you think? Do you think that it's worthwhile going to these conferences still? Because I'm hearing mixed feedback from different people. Some think some are great. Some think that's just more of the same. It's almost like become like a trade event where everyone just gets together, has a few drinks, and maybe tries to learn one or two things, and it costs a lot of money.
Look, it's interesting. I did a little post on Instagram about a week ago, sort of talking on this topic, and I didn't want to be the person making the judgment. I invited people to say what they thought, but my next trip from London was AMWC in Monaco, and that's it's the biggest event in the world. Maybe INCAS is, but they're both very big 15,000 people type events, and I have to say I found it a little bit unsatisfying. Not one thing, and nothing was done badly, but I was just sort of there wandering around. Maybe it's my own fault for not planning exactly what I wanted to get out of it, and I certainly would suggest if you go to a conference with, 8 different rooms at a time, you need to focus, well, what am I going to attend each day, and what do I want to learn? But I did a bit of that, but maybe not enough. But, I've been to enough conferences to sort of scratch my head and go, I don't know what I'm getting from this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's maybe good, because maybe it shows that I'm confident, and maybe there's, less breadth of knowledge to learn. That sounds arrogant. Maybe it doesn't. But, I think the more experience you get, that's a logical conclusion. But at the same time, it's a big investment of time, money, flights, jet lag, everything to kind of go,
Yeah, it's interesting,
not
isn't
sure
it?
if I'm
I've often wondered
this.
Yeah, I've often wondered whether the conference concept is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like, it kind of feels like, and I can't comment on all of them. I've been to a few, and whilst there's certainly some really positive sides to them, I think they're great for networking and putting faces to names and meeting people and just having human social connections, I think, are important. And obviously there's some great speakers and you can walk away with bits and pieces of information, but it feels like there's just an onslaught of bite-sized chunks of information.
Yeah.
It's almost like social media. You sort of scroll from one thing to the next. So how much of it can you absorb? Are we going deep enough or giving each topic enough respect?
That's kind of what many people were saying, and that's not for everyone. Some people loved it and maybe had a better focus, or maybe their newer injectors and everything was useful. But you're right, it's hard. Just from a practical perspective, you attend a lecture and you've got no ability to really get the slides. You can't interact easily. You just sat there like a dodo, and then half an hour's gone and the next speaker comes, or 15 minutes, and I don't know.
It's almost being back in a university lecture hall where you're just in a sea of people.
Speed date. Speed dating with lecturers. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. Yeah, so maybe there needs to be some reimagining of how we convey these. Yeah, not
to promote any one conference, but the one done here, Aesthetics. Well, it's called Aesthetics. The new one will be 24. It's tried to make that better by having everyone in one room. So you're learning one thing, not 100 things. The criticism of that from many has been it's been too quick and the talks are too short, and you need a little bit more information. So people have tried different things, and I don't know.
I kind of wonder whether it's worth going back to, and this is some of the ideas that you and I have thought about in terms of, if we were to do a conference, for example, just we're talking in hypothetical world at the moment, what would that look like? Is it something similar to what Felix is doing with the Inner Circle, where you have them small, they're boutique events, they're a finite number of people, so you don't sort of get this sea of bodies in a room that no one sort of is willing to talk. It's almost when you get too many people, it becomes too impersonal. People aren't comfortable to share, and sort of focusing on, a finite number of discussion points and making them more interactive and building a community rather than just an event.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was talking to Dan Julian about this. Can't remember. I think we had brunch together, and we were saying that one of the big things that we've thought more and more about as time has gone on, and I'm a hypocrite here because I've been involved in it, but live injecting of patients on stage.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about that the other day. Yeah.
Of course, there's a relevance, and there's an audience watching a technique, and you're talking about the product. I get why it's done, but is it the right environment? I don't know, because it puts the injector under massive pressure. The audience, God love them, are half there expecting or hoping that something goes wrong, so there's a bit of controversy or drama, or they didn't get a result, or there's something to talk about. Because if everything's perfect, you just sort of sat there going, okay, well, I haven't learned anything again. You want to see something different, don't you?
It's an interesting concept. I mean, I know that when people in general medicine are getting taught, or they're in their sort of education phase, or they're watching someone do a procedure, there used to be rooms where you could view someone doing a procedure. But that was reserved for a very small number of people, like with the whole concept of like being almost like at a performance art, where you're sort of watching someone do something that's theatrical and they're talking to the audience, the spotlight's on them, there's like, hundreds of bodies emanating energy towards this person. I don't know. It kind of feels like, I don't know. There's something that feels a bit weird about it.
What I haven't,
from an outsider looking in, from someone. I remember when I saw this done for the first time from someone that came from outside the industry. I was like, what is this?
Well, I guess what we're saying is the patient is not really the focus. It's the audience in the injector.
Yeah.
But the patient's kind of there like a lemming,
Yeah.
or a guinea pig, and they're sort of like, just shut up and deal with it.
Can you imagine a cardiothoracic surgeon up on stage going, all right.
Well, look, that does happen in surgery, and it's a valid form of education. We do live surgeries where they're filmed, and we've had Shafi Ahmed on many years ago talking about that, how you can scale that.
Yeah.
So it's not, how do I put that? I tell you what's missing. What's missing is the consultation and the why.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, because it doesn't involve the patient and they're just sat on a bed and the injecting basically just starts with a bit of anatomy or drawing on their face.
Yeah.
You're not teaching those people sat in the audience why you're doing it. You're just telling them about some anatomy and some product.
Yeah.
Whereas if the patient had a chance to talk, I don't think that's ever been done for, or not really.
Yeah.
And say, well, this is why I'm here. These are my concerns. These are my emotional motivations. And this is what prompted me to act as a model today.
Yeah.
I think that would add a bit of story and reality and make it make sense.
Yeah. And then I kind of wonder, are the same decisions being made in that situation that will be made in a treatment room? So, for example, when you look at Maurizio inject someone where he's got someone numbed up to the eyeballs, he's got an unlimited budget, he's putting 197 mils into someone's face.
Maximum of 20.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how realistic is that for your average injector that's sitting there watching that? And what sort of messages it's sending, and how close to reality is it?
I mean, look, I've been privileged to sort of see what happens behind the scenes, particularly, with the MD codes. And I do think it would be worth stating almost as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
It kind of does, but like maybe it should be made more explicit that this isn't like a normal suggested treatment. It should be done over a year or so.
Yeah.
This would be the actual budget if you added up all the filler, and these are the things we've done to prep our patient. I think that would be fair for not just MD codes, but all injecting. Mm-hmm. So everyone in the audience knows, oh, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
And that's how they made them so calm, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be fair. And that's actually good teaching as well, because if you're teaching not just about injecting, but preparation and patient care.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the utility in it, but I think it's just, the details that maybe we need to refine and see how we can do things better.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll get some people on to talk about their experience of AMWC, because I don't sit here and colour it and say it was terrible. It wasn't terrible at all, but just personally, I felt like less satisfied than maybe previous years. And that's a consistent theme with every conference I choose to go to. I'm like, but why? Mm-hmm. What will I get out of this? Yeah. And I think we all have to be a bit more precious with our time and our money, because it's important.
Of course. The two most important. Come on, health, time, and money. In that order. Yeah.
Oh, and something I forgot to say. I was invited to the Allergan factory in Prangy in France to see. That was actually really cool. So there's about, 15, 20 of us. We were with the Canadian team and the Australian team combined, and we got to see what happens in the filler factory. The Botox is made in Ireland, but the fillers are made in France. And to actually see the raw materials, what happens, the science, the sterility, the production line, and actually speak to the scientists and the research team, that was actually really cool. Can't go over any trade secrets, but it was very, very cool. Awesome. So thank you to Allergan for inviting me.
Awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
You got to go to France too.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I came home.
Very good. All right. Well, let's talk about what's going on in Patreon land. We've got a few new collaborative partnerships that we've just finalized as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, give a 2 bullet point statement about what Patreon is for any new listeners.
Okay, so for anyone that's been living under a rock that hasn't heard us talk about it a bajillion times, so Patreon is an on-demand subscription service that you can sign up to. Essentially, it allows you access to our private WhatsApp groups, which there are like hundreds and hundreds of members who are part of that community now from all over the world. We've got them split up into sections, from regenerative medicine to devices, injectables. There's region-specific chat groups as well. We have spoken about doing a chat group for newbies, which we're sort of considering at the moment. So it just allows people to come on, have a chat with someone that might be brand new, someone that might be internationally recognized KOL. So it's just a community where we can all get together in a safe space, share ideas, ask for advice, have a bit of banter. And then we've got all the content that you and I provide on a weekly basis as well. So you're doing obviously injectable related topics and discussions. We've done a little bit of crossover. I think you did a business one a few weeks ago, which was great. Yeah. And I do business and anything that's non-medical related, really. And so I did a video this week with Dr. Felix, who you guys know has been on the podcast many times before. Most recently, he came on and spoke about his why when it comes to business and what drives him. But we were talking really about what's going on in the market generally. Obviously, we've got some regulatory changes that are making things challenging here, which we've spoken about, and we'll cover in a little more detail soon. But this sort of movement around the world of things becoming more difficult, the economy, which we've spoken about plenty of times before, becoming a challenging space. And what do we need to do as business owners and practitioners in this new environment to make sure that our calendars and our books are always full, and how do we attract new patients? And that kind of spawned what we're going to talk about today. So that was the most recent video that I did, which went through all the stuff I do goes about 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah. And it's a great space for us to sort of connect with people who are hyper engaged, and also like talk about ideas and concepts that we can sort of then flesh out into full podcast discussions as well. So you get a bit of a sneak preview into what might be coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in Patreon, just click the link in our podcast description. Essentially, it's an app that you download, sign up for our Patreon, obviously under Inside Aesthetics, and then as a sort of a bonus to that, you get access to all of our WhatsApp chats.
Yeah, and there's a 7-day free trial.
There is a free 7-day free trial, so you don't need to be committed. You can see what it's all about first. And then as part of not just our Patreon, but just for all listeners, we have, I don't know if you guys really understand this, but we have IA offers. Yeah. So these are discounts or offers that you guys can sort of make access to. These are advertised on our website, and of course the link is down below as well. But what we're trying to do is partner with reputable brands to give you guys money off or some sort of value. So some of our most recent companies that we've partnered with, these are quite cool actually. So there's a company here based in Brisbane, Australia called Bacteriostatic Water. They actually, of course, also provide preserved saline, which is, highly used in our injectable procedures. And we have got a bit of a discount with them. So David negotiated that when I was away. And of course, if you're a user of some of the biostimulators, you might also want preserved water with your treatments. Yeah. So some of these things can be, in some countries, difficult to get hold of, but also expensive. Yeah. And so that hopefully will help you. And yes, they ship internationally. It's $30 to send to any country.
Yeah. And by using the code IA10, you get a 10% discount. Yeah, check out.
Again, down below in the podcast descriptions. We've also, you can mention your friend Cassandra.
Yeah, so Cassandra Smith, who's been on the podcast again many times, she's a regular contributor, and she recently did a series for us on Patreon where she was going into people's spaces remote, like via Zoom, and having a look at the way that their front of their clinic was set out, their patient waiting area, and walking us through changes that she would make to make that environment more conducive with retail sales, making it a better patient experience, make things flow better. So she's an expert when it comes to operational issues within your practice, how to make sure that you're maximizing every opportunity to get those retail products off your shelves, which often just sit there and collect dust, and in the hands of your patients who actually need them. And it all comes down to how you set up your clinic and how things flow. So she's basically the yin to my yang. She does all the stuff that I don't do. I'm sort of more on the business side of things, finances, big picture, strategy, all that kind of stuff. Whereas Cassandra's really good on the detail with operational bits and pieces, motivating your teams, retail sales, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you want to do some consulting with her, again, she's going to give a 10% discount off to any of our listeners as well. So if you just use the same code IA10, and her contact details will be obviously within the offer section of the website.
Absolutely. And we've got more coming, guys, more to tell you in our next podcast.
Yes.
So I guess just to summarize what this podcast is
now that we're 24 minutes in, let's tell them what, tell them what it's all.
To catch up on.
I know.
We don't want to bore those people to death in other countries, but I promise you this will be relevant wherever you are in the world. But as you may remember from our last episode, I think it was 249 with Jess Maggs and David Kosenko, we were talking about some of the impending regulatory things coming for us, Australian injectors, and we kind of ended that one by saying, we will get confirmation soon in a webinar by our regulator. Yeah. And we had that, lo and behold, last week.
Yes.
Now, first of all, did you actually watch it? I watched it.
I watched bits and pieces.
Okay. Now, without being Rude. What did you think of that webinar?
Well, it seems like the person that was reading it didn't really understand. I felt like they're just reading off a script.
They literally were reading it.
Yeah.
From what I could see, almost every syllable was read, not said.
Yeah, so it was basically a prepared speech. What I found weird was you're talking about the safety of our industry and looking after patients and wanting to regulate certain drugs. At least learn how to pronounce the word properly. It's not such a big deal. I mean, if you're going to start regulating an industry, and this is going to have devastating and long-lasting effects on the industry and the way that people function within it. Now, we can discuss whether those are good or whether those are bad, but they are dramatic. They're going to cause devastating changes.
No doubt,
right?
yeah.
At least learn how to say the drug names properly. I mean, it felt to me like a disrespect thing, to be honest.
I'm totally with you. So, for those people who didn't watch, there was about an hour presentation. Last 10 minutes were questions and answers, which they got through about 3 questions of 50. And then at 1 hour in, they said, okay, that's it, goodbye, and they just turned it off. That again was, for me, the more disrespectful thing. I mean, come on, you've got hundreds of injectors engaged and online. You've asked us to give us our time, so surely you can give us your time to answer our questions.
Yeah. And whether or not you think we're doing things badly or we're doing them well or we need regulation, whether we don't, I mean, the things that these regulators are doing are having big impacts on people's lives. It's not just about patients. Yes, patients are important, but all the people that have got small businesses that rely on their jobs and their businesses to support their family. This is a big deal what you're doing, and it doesn't feel like it's being taken seriously or with the respect that it deserves, and giving people the opportunity to engage and ask questions and be part of the process. It feels very autocratic.
I mean, I can only assume that's deliberate.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about it, negotiate it, or basically get a lot of heat from injectors. They were going to tell you again what the changes are, ring fence who can communicate with them live, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a regulator, so I'm not in their shoes, but just felt a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's, what do you expect?
Yeah. So
unfortunately,
if you want to kind of know the background to all of this stuff, we've covered a number of episodes, but 208, 238, and 249 give you all the prelude to this. I don't want to sort of cover old ground, but what were the main changes, David, for this webinar, and what has been clarified?
I don't think there was anything that was majorly different, to be honest with you. It was just clarifying you can't use before and after photos anymore. You can't advertise your price list. Obviously, you can't use drug names, which have always been the case. You can't use terms like anti-filler or anti-wrinkle or dermal filler. It's basically muted you from being able to advertise your services to the general public.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of, I guess, recap. So the TGA, who are our regulator, or one of our regulators, they deal with advertising particularly. They essentially said, I don't know, at Christmas time, they sort of released some guidelines that have now been clarified in this webinar, but they basically said it's always been the case that we can't advertise drugs or scheduled medicines, and it's kind of been a bit loose, and they allowed or tolerated some terms previously, but now not allowed.
They came up with those terms, actually, I think.
Correct, they did. So, whether you argue it's right or wrong, that is the main change.
Yeah.
So like you said, we can't list on our website or talk about on social media or even have on our booking sites, I guess, the term anti-wrinkle, filler, fat dissolver, all that stuff is gone. And so
even the inference is not allowed.
Well, this is where it gets, for me, I don't like dealing with grey, and they said it's very black and white, but there is some grey, because they said what we can offer is a consultation for reducing the appearance of wrinkles.
What about everything else? What about general signs of aging?
Well, exactly. Like, where do you stop? So I know some colleagues, I won't mention names, but they've decided, well, okay, I won't advertise consultation for filler, I'll advertise consultation for facial volume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seems to be within the law, but what the TJ have sort of implied by these rules is we don't want you offering services or like a menu of requests. We want you to offer consultations, but by definition that's legal. You're offering a consultation.
Well, I think that based on the presentation that we were given, I would say that this is just the first bite at the cherry. and there's going to be things that they're going to come through and tidy up and tighten up even further, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it's going, is that this is the sort of first or second wave of things, and as they find, okay, well, there's a loophole here, okay, well, you can't use any term that implies X, Y, Z. So I think that it's just going to be a gradual creep of making it increasingly more restrictive.
Yeah.
And we can get into the debate whether that's good or whether that's bad, because I've got mixed feelings on it as well. But I think if you understand the way regulatory bodies work and what the government's role is, and we are living in a world now where it feels like the government's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that this seems like the likely trajectory.
Yeah. And let's caveat this. We've done podcasts for 5 years now, or more than 5 years. Many years ago, injectors were crying out for regulation, rules, a training pathway, or whatever you want to call it. And I know training is different to regulation, but here we are.
Yeah.
We've got some regulation.
Yeah.
And now no one likes it.
Yeah.
So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I think we said in the past, we need to regulate ourselves, or we'll be told what to do and we won't like it.
Yeah.
And here we are. So,
Yeah.
So we're not here to sort of, I guess, judge was it good or bad, but more to sort of go into what are the implications of these changes.
Yeah. And what do you do about it?
So, you're a businessman, you've owned clinics before, you've managed thousands of injectors.
Yeah.
What would you suggest that people start sort of talking about on their websites or social media if they can't say anti-wrinkle and filler?
Well,
I mean, let's colour this with some feedback from people. Everyone's losing their minds here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People have been very upset. Just like you said, they think it's going to ruin their business, can't do anything on social media anymore. Oh, that's their perception anyway.
Yeah.
So what's your feedback, first of all? And
I think that this is part of a greater discussion around the industry and the implications that are the reality for businesses at the moment, which is that it is getting harder in general, and this industry is moving in line with all other industries, which is highly competitive. There's lots of suppliers on the market. Patients are educated, they're demanding to know what they want, and they're always looking for innovation, and they expect a lot of value for their money. And so I think that in the environment of increased regulation here in Australia, plus the economy, it's made this space increasingly more difficult. Now, I think we're looking at this from a broad perspective is, okay, well, what are the things that are within my control to start doing, or the changes that I can make, or the mindset that I need to shift toward to make sure that I'm successful into the future. And this kind of ties back into the conversation that I had with Felix on our Patreon, which was, well, in this environment, how do I make sure that my calendar's always full, that I've got lots of patients, and that these changes are going to have minimal impact on me?
Yeah.
And I think that there's no getting around the reality of this is going to be a change that's going to impact newer entrants into the market more than it's going to impact established people with lots of clients in their books that have got reputations, people know who they are, and they've established themselves. And I think that the concept of just being able to do a university degree and hop straight into, whether it's from a doctor's perspective or particularly a nurse's perspective, to just go and open your own business, I think that those days are going to become increasingly more challenging, because you are going to have a real challenge on your hands in letting people know that you exist and what you do, because social media is going to be so restrictive.
Yep.
And so before we went on air, I was saying to you, this is kind of the way that medicine was always practiced, really, which was that you would finish your education, you would then go and find a job with someone in the space that had an existing practice or a business, and you needed to go and work in there, build up your experience, your skills, and maybe after 3, 4, 5 years, after you've given a lot of time and done great things by this business, if you want to make the decision to go out on your own, then that seems like a natural progression, because inevitably, even if you do all the right things and you don't solicit patients, if you've done the right thing within that business and by those patients, a percentage of them will want to follow you.
Yep.
And if you do things the right way, and there's always an amicable way of leaving a company and doing your own thing. But I think that's kind of the days that we're going to be returning to. I think the whole idea of the instant entrepreneur is going to be difficult.
Yep.
And so are we going to have people that either rethink going into this industry altogether? Perhaps. Are we going to have people who are in this space, who have their own businesses, and make the decision to say, this is now going to become too hard. I'm going to go back into the employment workforce and actually go and find someone else who I can go and work with to build up my skills and my experience and my client base. And so I think that you'll see a contraction in the number of suppliers, and you'll see more people, more good quality injectors who will be looking for jobs again, because I think that everyone having their own business has made it difficult for existing businesses to grow and sustain themselves because everyone's wanted to do their own thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's kind of where it's going. And I'm not here to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, just to sort of put a word on what you said, it's more about carving out an apprenticeship.
Yes.
Rather than suddenly overnight owning a clinic.
And that's kind of the way it goes for most professionals generally. I mean, I can think of a few instances where people go and open their own thing, like barristers, for example. They might just go and get a room in a chambers somewhere where they've got, centralized services, but they're independent workers. But you think about lawyers, it's generally professionals go and do, as you said, like an apprenticeship with someone, and then go and do their own thing later. And that seems normal. Yeah,
it's funny. I got an email today from Holland. I won't give a name. I actually can't remember the name, but there's a very nice doctor who's still in their training, and they're doing some work. I think they're doing a PhD with Dr. Tom DeCatz.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked if they can come and do some of their medical elective in my clinic.
Oh, nice.
To just see what I do.
Yeah.
I haven't said yes or no yet because I don't know how that works practically and insurance-wise, etc. But my point being, someone is not even wanting to shadow or be mentored. They want to do work experience.
Yeah.
No one does that. I can't think of anyone who does work experience as a hospital nurse or hospital doctor to come and watch an injector for a week, a month. I've just not seen that. Most people have already done a course, committed to, I'm now an injector, and then everything's sort of done backwards.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice and refreshing to get someone to reach out and say that.
Yeah.
But, sadly, and I think we've discussed this before, because we are, as injectors, we're busy, we're running businesses, we've got our own patients.
Yeah.
To accommodate mentorship and shadowing and work experience, it's not always practical or actually, to be honest, that satisfying from our perspective. And, you could argue whether it's our job to do that. I know that sounds sort of a little bit dismissive because we've all got to learn from someone. But how do you think we should structure that or formalize that? Because there aren't going to be enough mentors for the amount of injectors who want it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. You mean you're finding places for people to work?
Yeah. I mean, who's going to put their hand up and go, I will mentor you and give you everything that I know?
Because I think what's going to happen is there'll be a realignment of supply and demand. At the moment, I think we've probably got more supply than we need, which means there are more injectors than there are patients, or sort of equal. Like generally in most major cities in Australia, you can throw a rock in any direction and hit a cosmetic injector.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so patients are spoiled for choice. There's no loyalty or not much loyalty anymore. People have options. If they don't like something immediately, they just go to the next. It's kind of very, very easy for people to find different injectors. And so I think that once you get, and I think that'll probably happen as these regulations start to impact people, you'll find that the supply and the demand ratio will sort of correct itself.
Yeah.
So there'll be less suppliers servicing the same number of clients or more clients, because I think that there's more people that sort of buy into these aesthetic treatments as the years go on and new people come into the market. And so I think that what will happen is businesses will be able to, so you'll have existing businesses that will be able to expand more. So you'll probably have more boutique clinics that start taking on extra injectors, extra days, expanding their premises slightly. I don't think you'll see like hundreds more chain clinics open up. I think you'll just find existing practices that just become larger.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, if you look at the data, or it depends where you get the data from, but highly likely the penetrance rate of the public getting treatments is going to go up.
Yeah.
So there'll be more patients demanding treatments. And so we will need more injectors, but not necessarily more premises.
Yeah. So there'll be an adjustment. And I think it'll happen over the next, 12 to 36 months, depending on lots of other factors that are outside anyone's control. But I've just sort of look at, and people sort of tend to hold on for longer than they should. So people that are in businesses that are not doing well, the whole idea of,
they don't recognize the danger.
Well, they don't. And it's sort of, and it's sort of like, when you're at the poker machines and you just keep pulling the lever hoping that the next one's going to be the winner. It's kind of, people don't want to sort of, they've put so much money in the concept of walking away from that is too confrontational, and therefore they sort of that whole concept of good money after bad kind of thing. It's really unfortunate, but that's just the unfortunate reality of business and nature in general.
Do you have any insights into the chains and whether they're
I'm going to be interested to see how the chains go, because from my experience, they work on very small margins, and I know there's not much money in laser hair removal anymore. It's hard to find good therapists that stay within the organisation, and I think that
and injectors,
and so it's hard to say, because they've got an advantage in some respects, because they've got patients coming in for other treatments that they can then cross promote within the same clinic, but their margins are so small, and I don't know whether or not, as companies that relied so heavily on sort of external marketing, because their churn rate is so high. So churn rate means a lot of people who come but never come back. So their retention, in other words, is quite low. So they rely a lot on new patients, really.
Yeah.
When I was involved in the businesses, even though I tried to run great businesses, when I compare the retention rate within a chain clinic versus a boutique clinic, they're not even comparable.
Yeah.
So how are they going to be able to keep up with that need for new patients, or how are they going to stem the flow of patients leaving, and how are they going to do that? Because as chain clinics, they're obviously going to be easily targeted by regulators. You'd see that they're a big target.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to make an example of someone, you're probably going to do it with a big provider, probably.
Maybe not even just sort of picked out by the regulator, but their main mechanism of advertising was advertising.
Well, it is. And so so I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. So the fact that they lose so many patients that they get, that they're going to have their hands tied behind their back with digital marketing and external marketing, and the fact that their margins are so low, I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, presumably, because one of the things that I think we touched on was we can't advertise prices as well as services.
Yeah.
Again, advertising things like packages to lure people in, which, that's what an advert does.
Yes.
You can sort of describe it how you like, but that's what it's doing, and that's what the regulator really doesn't want.
Yeah. I think they're going to find it very, very tough.
So that's going to be hard, because the chains often rely on sort of price as a motivation to get.
Yeah, I mean, that was on in the front house on the front window of the clinic. Lips for this much money, cheek package for this much money, giving them little cute names. I mean, that's what they're all about. So I think they're going to have to get really creative, I think. But I think everyone's going to feel it, to be honest with you. But again, this is the situation. How do we deal with it? So we kind of touched on the fact that I think there's going to be a return to the more traditional way that people educated themselves in this space. But some of the topics that I sort of took note of that Felix and I spoke about that fall into two major categories. So the one is getting back to basics with the way you advertise your services and treatments. We've sort of become this hyper-connected world through social media, but people don't talk to each other anymore. A lot of them aren't involved in their local communities, whether it be schools their children go to, charity events, local chambers of commerce, business groups. Being comfortable striking up a conversation with a stranger and saying, "Hi, I'm such and such, and this is what I do for a living." Not making it that overt, but having a conversation where you actually just talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I think you don't need thousands of patients on your database. You need a couple of hundred of really loyal people who love what you do. And I honestly think that there is a real value in getting back to basic human interaction and communication, is get into your local community. People should know who you are, what you do, and start getting back to those grassroots way of actually networking in a real sense. I think it'll be quite refreshing for people too, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Look, I think that's all valid as well. I mean, I don't know what specifically I would take from that and do myself, but you're right. I mean, there's plenty of people walking around and like you said, organisations that you probably could tap into. I don't know what the regulator would have to say about sort of verbal promotion. I have no idea. But nevertheless, you can talk to people and say, I'm a doctor and this is what I do. You don't have to say, come in for X.
Well, you're not advertising to the masses. You're having a personal, private conversation with somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm not sort of suggesting that you walk around with a billboard shaking hands with strangers going, hi, I'm Jake and I'm an injector. Come see me for your Botox. I'm saying it's just about getting out of your comfort zone and engaging with people on a one-to-one basis and looking for opportunities within your local area.
Yeah.
To let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, 100%.
Because these things exist.
Yeah.
Business groups, women in business, they said local chambers of commerce. There's always charity events going on that you can be a part of, and maybe you give a talk or some education.
Yeah.
It sounds really simple, and unfortunately, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with that form of communication.
Yeah.
They're only comfortable behind their screen.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to have to get comfortable with that concept again.
I mean, just to translate that to, well, what should people do on social? We've all been guilty of doing various things in the past because we could, I guess. And some people love some things that people do, some hate it and it drives them mad. But I think we definitely need to go back to proper education. And one of the easiest things to do, because it's not even your knowledge, is to just showcase evidence. So talk about papers, studies, anatomy, things that are real and tangible and can't really be challenged because they're just facts.
Yeah.
Rather than opinions. If we can't use before and afters, well, it's a big one in a way because that's what we do. That's how we showcase what we do. But, if you can get someone into your consultation, then you can have a booklet of your before and afters to make your consultation a bit richer and to again, you're not saying this is what you're going to look like, but you're saying these are examples of, tear trough filler. Having looked at 5 or 10 of my examples, you get some idea of what I'm talking about in this consultation. I think that would be a useful tool.
Yeah.
I don't think we probably do that enough. I mean, again, there are some really cool technologies emerging, or in fact even available. You've spoken to one of them, maybe for one of our offers in the future.
Yeah.
But there are some camera companies out there that offer the ability to sort of augment a face and just sort of show patients sort of examples of what we mean by volume or contour. Again, none of these are perfect, but just thinking laterally about, well, how can you communicate to people differently, I think might be useful.
Yeah.
Still, that involves getting the person in your room and then you sort of follow your strategies to get them in.
Yeah.
But I think we just need to be better at what we do rather than just selling. That's what the regulator doesn't want us to do. It doesn't want us to sell, promote. It wants us to educate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that it sounds reasonable. It's just going to come down to the detail and how people are going to execute it and work within the laws. I think that social media is always going to be, you have to exist there.
Yeah.
You can't just shut down your Instagram page and all your social media because of these regulations. You still, unfortunately or fortunately, it's still a way that people legitimize that you actually exist and that you're real and you have a reputation.
Yeah.
So I think that's always going to have to be part of your marketing strategy, is having a digital presence.
Yeah. I'm really curious to understand what our listeners who aren't in Australia think of all of this.
Yeah.
They're probably laughing, thinking this is crazy, this is silly, it's so nanny state. But I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm with it.
Well, I think it's going to weed out people that potentially shouldn't be in the space.
Yeah,
and that sounds really harsh. Maybe it is. But I think that, anyone listening to this probably knows or have met someone at a conference and you think, you're not here for the right reasons. You're not serious about this as a profession. You're actually not a good representation of what I stand for.
Yes.
As someone that wants to look after patients responsibly and have those ethics in mind. And so I think a lot of those people who thought they were going to get wealthy really quickly and this was going to be an easy path to success, I think these barriers are going to stop those people from coming in. And potentially cause some of them to rethink their career, or maybe they have an epiphany and just completely change their mindset and go, you know what, I actually should go and work for someone else because I really don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
I'm too inexperienced to be calling myself, the lip queen or the cheek goddess or whatever it is, or whatever, I won't be sexist, maybe the cheek king. And I think those people have to reevaluate their careers and say, well, I'm going to go and I cannot sustain this business now. It's too hard for me to get new patients. I'm going to have to go and work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And maybe that is what the industry needs.
What have because you mentor lots of injectors, different countries as well. What's the general vibe? Are they panicking, or are they in a way going to sort of use this as an opportunity to develop and evolve their business?
It varies from person to person. There are some people that are quite scared about it and don't really have a plan. And there are others that are seeing it as a positive and an opportunity to get better at what they do. And this is the other point that Felix and I covered, was the whole concept of diversifying your offering. And it's a subject that I'm sort of in conflict with myself about, because on one hand, you can't be everything to everybody. And when you try and offer too many things, you start to become inefficient. And how good can you be at lots of different things?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that, and this sort of will dovetail nicely into the conversation that we're having later this week with Dr. Isabella Silla, who is, I guess, an integrative functional doctor. I don't know if she officially holds that title, but she's very much got an interest and a practice that's based in this space. And talking about how you further expand your understanding of what it is to be an aesthetic practitioner. Does it go beyond just what you can do with a needle?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a degree in nutrition or a degree in functional health or whatever the case may be, it's about understanding how hormones impact the body, understanding the psychology behind why patients get these treatments. Is it looking at having a skin side of your business as well, so you're actually able to take care of these patients holistically? You can obviously at the moment still advertise through those avenues, and potentially bringing people in via treatments and pathways that don't come through the injectable portal might be a way that you continue to expand what you're doing and attract new patients to your space. And also attracting different profiles of patients that perhaps wouldn't have come in through the aesthetic pathway. There's a lot of people out there who steer away from our industry, rightly or wrongly, because they feel that they're going to look weird, they're not going to get the result they want, they don't want to go down that path. It's just something that they've made a decision that it's not for them. And a lot of that, I think, comes from just lack of education. They haven't met the right practitioner. They've been watching too much of the sensationalized stories in the media, and they're kind of scared off. But maybe they come in for someone to talk about their hormones and the fact that they, feeling, depressed about the way that, life's treating them at the moment. They don't feel like they're at the optimal health. And then conversations come around aesthetics and, okay, I've got a established relationship with you now. You don't seem like a psycho. You look natural. Maybe I would consider some tox. Yeah. And so I think you'll start to pull in different people from different walks of life that perhaps weren't in the market for injectables previously. Yeah,
I'm really interested to speak to Izzy when she comes on, because we were talking off air, and I do wonder whether the TGA or some other regulator will eventually have regenerative medicine, which I guess is aligned to what we do, because in their targets as well, because again, it's lacking evidence in some of its modalities. Again, a doctor's going to be selling it the wrong way and promising, promising that you're going to be younger and healthier and all these claims. We've got to be careful with, with how we offer these things. So
the devil's in the detail for sure. But I think a lot of these conversations and the advice that people get within the functional integrative space perhaps won't even be about having a drug or a treatment. It'll be about, looking at your blood work in more detail, looking at your hormone profile, talking about the importance of all the other things that we do to our body, like the amount of hours we're getting every night with sleep, the amount of water that we're drinking, exercise routine. And I think a lot of people inherently know what they should be doing. But I think once you start to see the results on, say, like a genetic aging test, where you can actually go, well, I'm 40, but this test is telling me that I'm 79. That's not good. And these things all fit together. So I think that it doesn't have to be a medical intervention per se with a product or a drug. I think there could be a lot of stuff that people can educate themselves on, where they can start having these more holistic discussions with their patients. And even if they're not exactly got the same margins on them as, say, doing 3 mils of dermal filler, I think that you're just going to attract more patients. You're going to be able to potentially advertise those services because it's not a drug that you're actually promoting. And I just think it starts to change the definition of what is an aesthetic practitioner. And this is one of the main questions we're going to talk to Izzy about, which is, do we need to be broadening the terminology of what does it actually mean to be an aesthetic provider? Because all these things impact the way you look. If you're not sleeping, you're stressed, you're going to look like shit.
Well, the gateway is the skin again, isn't it? It's not necessarily the face, although that's possibly what injectable patients think of. But if you eat better, sleep better, work out and all those things, invariably your skin looks better.
Yes.
And then you look younger and you start getting compliments, and then you kind of build on that, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe you haven't been able to exercise because you've got an injury that you haven't addressed, or you've got a low-level intolerance to a certain food that's causing inflammation and discomfort, and you don't feel like exercising, but all of a sudden you address that, you're back into your exercise, you start to feel more confident, like it changes even the chemistry in your brain, like having those endorphins rushing around in there from doing the things that the body's designed to do. So I think that looking at returning to form, like the traditional ways of educating and sort of growing in this space or in medicine in general, I think is going to be returned to. I think grassroots communication, networking, and diversifying your practice sensibly. I'm not talking about going and hiring a whole lot of dermal therapists and rolling out your wages budget, but it's about maybe you can network with other people. Maybe there's a functional integrative practitioner that comes into your space once a week, and you sub-rent a room out to them, or you subcontract them, or learning about hormones. There are sort of courses that you can do now to sort of talk about, the pre and post-menopausal situation for women, and how do you sort of address that, even having an understanding of it. So, I mean, what do you think about all that? I mean, do you...
look, I have certainly been thinking, not necessarily about adding anything in particular, but for the last 2 or 3 years of conferences that I've been to, you can see regenerative medicine is now a solid pillar of the offering of the conference. Mm-hmm. So it's, whether you like it or not, it's not going away, but also, just like as you said, I think we've said this on other podcasts, yes, you can put some filler in and toxin and soften the wrinkles, but what is happening to the actual body to create that structure and aging and drooping and sagging? Well, of course, it's more innate than just, the superficial. We know that, everyone knows that, but I think, like you said, we kind of ignore it because it's easier to fill a wrinkle than to eat better.
Yeah. Well, also, going back even to like first principles thinking on this is, when you do an injectable treatment on somebody, you're treating a symptom.
Yeah.
And the symptom is as a result of the aging process. And the aging process can be amplified or slowed down depending on, obviously, there's genetic factors that you can't change. You can't change who your parents are, but you can impact gene expression, apparently. I'm not a doctor, but that's what I've read. That you can slow down the rate at which you age by your diet, your exercise. So actually treating the cause rather than the symptom. So you're going upstream rather than downstream.
I mean, I loosely agree, but of course, if you've just got a muscle that's strong, the simplest thing to do isn't to have some supplements, is to throw some toxin.
Yeah, but if you're stressed out of your mind, you're working, 70-hour weeks, you're not sleeping, all your collagen structures are breaking down from just high levels of cortisol and stress.
Yeah.
Throwing filler in someone is treating the symptom of a very unhealthy lifestyle, which is causing their skin structures to break down.
Yeah, look, sometimes, but alternatively, I sometimes see really fit, lean, crazy people in the gym, and they eat well, but they look knackered and like a skeleton.
Yeah, but there's also overtraining.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying, if you just look at like soccer players, football players, athletes, they look great body-wise, but their face can sometimes look a bit gaunt and empty.
Yeah.
So it's not just because you're old.
No.
This is a spectrum.
It's not like, I'm not taking a reductionist view that if you just eat macadamia nuts and you're going to be okay. I'm saying that they fit together.
Yes.
And you need to there needs to be a balance between treating immediate aesthetic concerns.
Yeah, 100%.
And looking at what is actually causing you to age prematurely or leading to these outward appearances that you're not happy with. How can we slow that down? So it's attacking it from both sides.
Yeah. I mean, look, something that comes up, I won't say regularly, but relatively commonly in my consults for new patients is, people who know me, I've got quite a long intake form, but one of it focuses on weight, body, general health, stress, and psychology. And it's an awkward question to ask someone, but if they say, yes, I've put on more than 5 kilos in the last 6 months, then my next question is, has that prompted you to book in today because your face shape has changed? That's my next question. Sometimes the answer is yes, because I've got a more fuller double chin, or my face looks rounder.
Right.
I want more definition. I want to look slimmer. All of those things obviously come into an aesthetic consult, but it would logically be much more sensible for me to say, well, let's work on your food and your weight and your exercise plan and your stress and all the things that go with that.
Yeah.
and not do filler. And often I do say that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be the person who necessarily does that, but I still got to be honest and say that.
Yeah, or at least have enough information to be able to point them in the right direction, whether it's to someone that you've partnered with, that you've got a referral relationship with, someone that potentially sits within another room within your space that works there too. I just think we need to do more than what we're doing now. So I guess the take-home message is diversify, upskill, because that's the next wave that's coming.
Yeah.
As I said in a previous podcast, I have had my opinion asked for by a number of different companies, but most recently a large or relatively large private equity firm over in Europe, and they were quizzing me about what's happening with the regenerative space in Australia and what my thoughts were on it, and the amount of money that's being poured into this is just mental.
And by the way, this goes both ways. If you are a functional clinic or a holistic clinic doing everything but aesthetics, you need an aesthetic practitioner there as well. It's the same argument either way.
Absolutely.
And talking about sort of combining forces and clinics contracting and getting bigger but less numerous, that would be a logical next step as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I think it's inevitable. So I think that's where I'd be looking. If I was an aesthetic practitioner in this space, I'd be saying, what's the next wave that I can ride?
Yeah.
How can I become an early adopter of this concept? How can I separate myself from my competitors? What can I advertise and talk about on my digital platform at the moment that's legal, that will then potentially form a pathway for aesthetic treatments as well? Because as you said correctly, you need to address it from both sides.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of what we need to do as humans, is just try and be better tomorrow than we are today. And so that comes with continuing to educate yourself and working at, well, am I doing something better? If I start to become aware of these concepts and ideas, am I now a better practitioner for my patients?
Yeah. Not necessarily to promote Allergan, but they've just released like a document. I can't remember what it was called. It was called Moving the Needle on Aesthetics.
Right.
And the upshot was, it's actually a really good read. I'll see if we can make it available for our patrons or just as a general download. Talks about the ethics of injecting and how this year they're going to try and incorporate ethics as a module for new injectors.
Right.
And that's very broad, and I don't just mean be a good person, but really think about what we're doing. And we've touched on a lot of it already, but putting the patient first is basically the bottom line.
Right.
I mean, I forgot to ask you this. So when the regulator says, you can't say these words, fine, that's what the law says. I get it. I'm not going to argue with it. But is there another example of that where you can't use words?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I can't think of anything.
No.
I wonder whether someone would try and trump that and say, well, what about free speech and anti-competitiveness? I don't know. I don't know the law.
I don't know whether we have a free speech amendment here in Australia. I don't think it's the same as it is in the States.
Right.
To be honest, I don't think we have a First Amendment here.
Damn. We need one. I don't know. I mean, I'm not arguing that the law isn't right, because the law is the law. It got me thinking, I can't think of another example where you can't use a word.
Well, I guess the other end of the spectrum is if you go to our friends over in New Zealand or America, where you turn on the TV and you're watching an advertisement for an antipsychotic drug.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
If you turn on like any of the you turn on like the news and every ad is from a pharma company.
Yeah.
And that's probably not great either.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, if we agree that things like toxins and I guess fillers, because they are dangerous in the wrong hands, shouldn't be bought over the counter like aspirin or paracetamol, then how can we also argue that they should be handled differently and in their own special class where they get exceptions and we can talk about them, but we can't talk about other scheduled drugs? I think that's the problem that the TGA have tried to solve by saying, well, let's just treat it exactly like every other drug. We can't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's annoying and it makes our businesses difficult because it was allowed, but they're just applying what has already been decided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree, because it's sort of like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
At what point do you decide that's acceptable and that's not acceptable? Like, where's the line between putting a before and after photo up and saying, I did this treatment on this patient with this much product here, and here's the before and after, versus come and get your cheeks done for $800?
Yeah.
Like, what's advertising and what's not? Because you could argue that both are forms of advertising. So which?
I guess the second one, the price and the mils, sells a dream, or it sells an idea that you get a result for a finite price without a consultation. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the before and after with a disclaimer will say, in this patient's own example, this many mils were used, and this was my price, and these are the risks. I think that's more balanced.
I think so too. It's just about how do you define that, and then how do you police that?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me about before and afters, because I want to say something. So we see this all the time on social media, where we all, turn into photo Nazis, and we criticize the photos and the lighting, the angle, and no photo is perfect. But I do think as a profession, and I don't care what country you're in, you can do better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fed up of seeing, forget just any injector, but high profile injectors putting up crappy photos and then getting thousands of likes from their own peers, sort of reinforcing the fact that those crappy photos are good. And that is the standard that we hold ourselves to. I think we can do better.
Do you think you mean crappy in terms of just the quality of the photo, or crappy in terms of not consistent lighting?
Everything.
And do you think it's deliberate, or do you think it's laziness?
Look, let's not accuse people of deliberate doing anything, but it's certainly lazy because it's obvious.
Yeah, okay.
And they know that. They go to conferences and talk about what they should be doing.
Right.
But they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to make my own photos better. I'm investing in more equipment and so on. I'll never be happy, but I know where I started and I know where I am now.
Yeah.
And I know it's better. And yet I just feel like if that's what our patients see, then no wonder they're crazy when they come in and get angry when we can't deliver, or we don't deliver, or anything under that umbrella. I just think that we need to be ethical by we can't do it in Australia anymore, but if you're in America, UK, or somewhere else, please be ethical enough to not only give the right information, but show proper photos.
Well, I think this will be just a momentum thing, because if enough people start doing the right thing, then everyone else will follow suit, because that's generally the way that it works.
That's where the role model should be, leading.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
And they won't, because they don't have to. And again, this comes down to, well, maybe they should also be regulated. It sounds like a silly argument, but they're not going to change it unless they're forced to.
Yeah. I mean, because it does give patients unrealistic expectations.
Well, it just shows... Well, I don't know what it shows, because the photos are different.
Crazy,
and so this is why I don't understand people clapping, going, "Oh my God, great result!" When you can't say, I'm not criticizing the work is bad or good. I'm just saying the photos aren't the same. So what are you judging?
Yeah.
This is what, when I had to judge these photos for the aesthetic awards, thank you for everyone who applied. I appreciate your hard work. But some I just couldn't say because I couldn't interpret from the bad photography. Whereas some I could say, wow, that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
And you can just judge. Any layperson could do that.
Yeah. It's your work. That's what I've never understood. Like, if you're creating a piece of art, which is what I interpret what it is that you guys do, why would you not want to give it the best possible go that you could? Like, why would you not want to present it in the best light, pardon the pun, in the best light that you possibly can, right? I mean, that seems to make sense. You're trying to showcase how good you are, how skilled you are.
Yeah. I say to injectors who I train sometimes, imagine you're a restaurant and you're taking amazing photos of your food to put out before your launch and for your website. Would you choose the shit ones in bad light with shadows and not showcasing what you're actually putting out, or the proper ones with lighting where the food actually looks like what you're presenting?
Yeah.
And then translate that to a face.
Yeah.
Where you're injecting stuff into someone's face. Would you show the bad photo or the good photo? It's so obvious, but because you don't have to, you don't do it.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're listening.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm sorry to get on my high horse, but it really bugs me.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, and we can't even do this anymore, it's maddening, but show what you're doing properly.
Yeah.
And educate patients as part of that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've kind of done this to death, but
I think so.
Hopefully give some injectors, not just in Australia, but abroad, some ideas about how they might elevate or do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just time for us to revisit what we're doing, why we're doing it, how to overcome the challenge that's going to be ahead of us. And, if you are a business person, this is what separates sort of the men from the boys or the women from the girls or whatever. You just need to be looking at what you can do better every day. And as you said, if that's, it's starting to take better photographs, like constantly looking for ways to improve yourself and your practice every day. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. Like you can't control the economy.
Yep.
You can't control your competition. You can't control the regulators, but you can control what you do every day. And so I think that you have to adapt. That's how every species survives. Every species that is on Earth today got here because its ancestors adapted.
Yeah.
And that's sort of analogy, that we are living in a different landscape now.
Yeah, I was thinking, and it sounds like self-promotion, I guess it is, but our Patreon that we offered, we mentioned right at the start, it's a form of virtual mentorship when you think about it. We got hundreds of injectors who you can ask questions to or just see what questions come up and learn from that. But we are there for you.
Yeah.
We support you. David does the business stuff. I do injecting. I think there's over 220 videos or posts of some description where we're doing coaching or live injecting or something. And I don't know where that's available elsewhere. No. You're not going to get that elsewhere. And if you are an injector anywhere in the world and you're on your own and you don't know who to turn to, you don't know who to mentor, you come to us.
Yeah.
Just check it out. It's free for 7 days.
Yeah. And I am getting a lot of questions at the moment from people asking whether I'm doing mentoring. Yes, I am, but you have to be a Patreon. And once you become a Patreon member, you got access to our WhatsApp groups, and my number will be on there, and you can reach out to me directly, and I'm more than happy to help you. I do have a finite number of hours, but I still have some availability. So yes.
Yeah. So I did some shadowing opportunities last year. I think I saw about 8 or 9 injectors. Everyone was from different backgrounds, including some dentists, and everyone had a different sort of focus of what they wanted out of it. But I got some good feedback. Because of time, again, I don't know how to do that, but if you're interested, again, that's only for our Patreons. But I'm open to sort of give people opportunities. I just need to make my time efficient. So if you can think of another way of how you would like to learn, maybe with a group or something else, let us know, because we're open to ideas. David mentioned it right at the start. We're even loosely thinking of doing some sort of live event next year.
Yeah.
Don't know what that will look like yet, but we'd love to get your feedback, and particularly in this ever-evolving business and economic sort of situation, you might decide that you need more help than you realized last year.
Yeah. No, it's there's no shame in asking for help.
Yeah,
I ask
absolutely.
for help all the time. So, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, nice to be back in the studio.
Yeah, and excited for the podcast that we're going to be recording later in the week. So super excited to start having those discussions. Actually, I saw that Dr. Tim Pierce said he sort of put up a story about his mother, which was quite touching and sad at the same time, and spoke about the fact that he's now starting to look at the regenerative space. So, I mean, you've got some big hitters with some big reputations starting to recognize that this is potentially the future.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens.
Okay, take care, guys. See you, bye.
For our latest news, follow us on Instagram at Inside Aesthetics Podcast. If you want to get in touch with myself or David, follow us on Instagram as well at Dr. Jake Sloane and David_Inside Aesthetics.
Join our Patreon for invaluable business and injectable education. Get access to our global community of like-minded professionals, live and interactive Zoom sessions, hints and tip videos, webinars, and more. Head over to www.insideaesthetics.com/Patreon for more information.